noble Allah-fearing people of the Gambia. In conclusion, we have evidence to back our claims in the form of attestations and correspondences by those unpatriotic and ungodly vermins to the powers that be. We have copies of all false attestations. All Gambians should know that 98% of the people given these false attestations are not even known to the Gambia government. The false attestations made in attempts to gain asylum include but are not limited to the following. In the Gambia, UDP Treasurer Amadou Sane prepared a false attestation for one Malang Fati, claiming he was arrested and tortured, a claim Mr. Sane knew to be false. So-called UDP youth wing leader Mamadou El Nyasi alias Shingul Nyasi prepared false attestations for one Sehum Balo resident at 1818 Clay Avenue, the Bronx, New York, United States of America, who, after gaining asylum based on false testimony, made several false and malicious attestations. Mr. Mbalo is an executive member of the UDP in the United States. He is also president of the so-called Gambian Movement for Democracy and Development in the U.S. He has made false attestations for people including Lamin Sanyang, former staff of the Gambian Embassy in the U.S., and Seni Marena. He also prepared attestations for Keba Kinte, Haji Bohum, Alaji Baba Dukure, Mr. Asan Martin, Babukar Mbalo, Abdullah Bokum, Abubakar Silla, Mr. Ibrahim Balde, and others whose details will be provided as investigations continue. They even give false attestations to people we believe are non-Gambians. It is ridiculous that the people that the UDP and their agents around the world are preparing false attestations for by claiming that they are being arrested, tortured, and persecuted are all scarcely known to most Gambians. It beats common sense that the leadership of the UDP are living and operating freely in the Gambia, and at the same time their junior and unknown riffraffs of their party, UDP, are claiming harassment. This is nothing but a callous, treacherous, and wicked attempt to smear the image of the country for narrow political and personal interests. To the shock and dismay of patriotic and God-fearing Gambians, these false claims and attestations have enjoyed the support of high-profile officials of the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee, including Senator Richard J. Dobbin, alias Dick Dobbin, Senator Ross Feingold, Senator Robert P. Casey, Senator Joe Lieberman, Senator Benjamin L. Cardin, and Senator Paddy Murray. To prove that Allah will never support evil, out of thousands of Gambians in the USA, only 9 people came out as demonstrators despite their vigorous campaign online for Gambians to come out and demonstrate. God-fearing patriotic Gambians rejected this evil call and went about their normal business. The United States of America cannot morally claim to be the bastion of human rights, freedom, and democracy, as her bloody track record shows from their independence to date. It is a country that was lifted from backwardness, poverty, and violence to superpower status, as well as the largest economy in the world, by the sweat, blood, and tears of millions of African slaves. Though slavery has ended technically today, the armed robbery of petroleum-rich and mineral-endowed countries continues unabated under various pretexts. The most fashionable pretext being promotion of democracy and human rights and so-called war on terror. What a blatant deception. From Vietnam, Latin America, and Korea to the Middle East and Africa, from the Pacific to the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, the story of the self-appointed international policeman remains the same. Everywhere they went, they left nothing but a trail of death and destruction. From the last decade to date, Iraq stands out as a typical example for this 21st century. A country that condemns the Gambia government for putting criminals before the law continues to sponsor this false and disgraceful malicious smear campaign against the government of the Gambia since 1994. Invaded Iraq to get rid of a dictator under pretext and ended up destroying hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives, committing outrageous war crimes, massive slaughter of Iraqi women and children, and appalling human rights abuses. Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay prisons stand testimony to this. It left Iraqis reeling under a dangerously divided country with deep-seated sectarian violence that is causing death and destruction on a daily basis. A country where the minority black population constitutes 99% of all death row inmates, where even mentally deranged people are tried and condemned to death and eventually executed, cannot stand even on the devil's platform and condemn any country, more so the Gambia. They cite without any proof and iota of truth arbitrary arrests, detention without trial, and extrajudicial executions in the Gambia. What about the people in Guantanamo Bay? What about the other people that were kidnapped and held in secret locations around the globe in their campaign of terror called War on Terror? Why are these people not being tried if at all they committed any terror-related offenses? Let the USA tell the Gambia and the whole world the definition of extrajudicial execution, and then explain who tried, where and when, and sentenced to death by drone attack the hundreds of people being killed by US drone attacks in the Middle and Far East and Africa. Finally, all the thousands of Muslims that were rounded up in the US in the aftermath of 9/11 and have never been put before a court of law for 12 years. Not even their parents or attorneys can have access to them. Don't they have the same human rights as non-Muslim white Americans? Blacks being shot and killed by white US police officers with impunity, are they not human beings in the USA? A country that has legalized white racist death squads for the sole purpose of lynching and terrorizing blacks, Jews, Muslims, and other non-white minorities under the protection of a numbered amendment in the US Constitution has no moral legs to stand on and criticize any other country, more so the Gambia. The Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, the white supremacists, neo-Nazi and others are nothing but white death squads that should have been banned and prosecuted for their crimes against minorities in any truly democratic and human rights protecting country. Racist vigilante groups kill blacks with impunity. Instead of protecting their poor minorities as a responsible and democratic government, they are persecuting them through right-wing white paramilitary groups. A country which was salvaged from abject poverty to become the richest nation on earth through black sweat, blood and tears, unfortunately is the country where you find the poorest black neighborhoods in the Western Hemisphere. Blacks live